Have you ever said the name Jesus 1,000 times, yet felt like something was missing, like there was an unspoken connection you just couldn't reach? What if everything you were taught about him was only the surface, a name on your lips, but not the essence of the truth hidden beneath? Imagine this. What if the name you know as Jesus isn't the one spoken in the sacred tongue? What if his true name wasn't just a title but a key, a vibration, a divine code meant to guide us back to the heart of God? If this idea stirs something deep within you, something more than just curiosity, then you're not alone. You might be standing at the edge of a revelation that could change everything you thought you knew. So what really happened when they changed his name, and why did they do it? What truth is buried beneath this simple transformation? This isn't just another lesson or a lecture. This is a journey, an awakening, a rediscovery of something vital. As we walk through this, I want to invite you to leave a comment, perhaps even drop 777 if you feel the shift happening inside you. Because by the end of this, you won't just understand why his name was changed. You'll uncover the power it holds, waiting to ignite something within you. Let's begin the journey. Yeshua versus Jesus. This is why they changed his name. Let us slip quietly into the truth they masterfully concealed right before your eyes, hidden so openly that almost no one thought to question it. The man the world chants as Jesus was never actually called by that name, not by his gentle mother, who cradled him under the starlit skies of Bethlehem, nor by the fishermen who left their nets to walk dusty roads at his side. His real name was Yeshua. In those ancient days, a name was never just a simple tag to distinguish one person from another. Among the Hebrews, and even among the wise priests of Egypt, a name was something far more profound. It was a vessel, a sacred container of essence. To truly know a being's name was to brush your fingertips against its very spirit, to stand on the threshold of its mystery and tap into its hidden power. Isn't it haunting to imagine that one small word could carry such weight? The name of the Lord is a strong tower. The righteous run to it and are safe. That's what Proverbs 18:10 tells. It hints at how names were understood not merely as syllables, but as fortresses of divine resonance. The name Yeshua was exactly that, a living breath of salvation itself, spoken not only from the mouth, but from the depths of the soul. Have you ever wondered what it might feel like if your own name pulsed with such force that it stirred destinies and rattled the gates of empires? Yeshua's name did precisely that. It wasn't a static title people could lock away in doctrine or etch coldly onto stone. It was too alive, too electric, too brimming with awakening. It surged through hearts like a river, uncontained, inviting every soul to remember who they truly were. And what's even more unsettling for the mighty institutions of men both then and now is that Yeshua's name didn't simply beckon people to bow down before a figure robed in miracles. It pointed beyond flesh and blood straight into a higher realm of being. It whispered to each person that they themselves were meant to embody salvation, to rise into a reality where divine likeness was not an unreachable dream, but an inheritance waiting to be claimed. Can you sense why those in power might tremble at such a notion? Imagine multitudes awakening to the spark of the divine inside them, no longer easy to control through fear or ritual. What would our world look like if people truly embrace that kind of living, breathing revelation today? Would we still cling so tightly to systems built on forgetting who we are? This is only the beginning of the mystery. The deeper currents have yet to be revealed. Stay close. Let your spirit lean in, because the next part of this story may stir something ancient inside you that refuses to ever fall asleep again. This is the heart of it, the key they have guarded for centuries behind ornate doors and polished pulpits. Those who sought to carve a mighty religion out of Yeshua's wild, burning truth understood something chillingly simple: to seize the message they first had to seize the man's very identity. And where better to start than with the fragile syllables of his name? Yet to trace the roots of this grand alteration, we cannot merely wander through ancient temples or leaf through brittle scrolls. We must stride into the echoing marble halls of emperors, into the very chambers where empires tighten their grip on human souls. Picture the 4th century, where the world's greatest power was beginning to splinter. Roman legions that once crushed kingdoms underfoot now found themselves stretched thin, while rival factions whispered of revolt. Amid this turmoil stood Constantine, an emperor, desperate to forge unity from chaos. Could it be that a fractured empire saw in the humble followers of Yeshua a chance to weld nations together under one banner? But there was a problem. This movement was not a tidy creed. It was alive, like fire running through dry fields. The men and women who walked in Yeshua's footsteps did not simply recite doctrines. They embodied a living mystery. They spoke of kingdoms within, of personal transformation, of divine sonship that couldn't be regulated by imperial decree. How could such a thing ever be tamed? And so, a plan took shape, one that reached its zenith in the Council of Nicaea. Can you imagine that gathering golden robes, brushing stone floors, torches throwing restless shadows, voices rising to decide not only theology, but the very architecture of human thought for centuries to come? It was there that the raw, untamed current of Yeshua's teachings began to be caged. The name itself was the first chain. His Hebrew name, Yeshua, rolled out with a breathy softness, a holy sheesh sound that carried the rustle of wind through olive trees, the hush of prayer in candlelit rooms. But Greek, the tongue of philosophers and conquerors, had no room for such a sound. Yeshua was reshaped into Jesus. From Greek to Latin, Jesus hardened into Isus, spoken in the echoing courts of Rome, where soldiers clanked in armor. Then centuries later, with the peculiar evolution of language, the English letter J emerged, completing the metamorphosis into Jesus. Have you ever felt how different these names are in your mouth, as if the very breath that gave them life was siphoned off, little by little? With each translation, the living vibration, the soul-deep resonance was diluted. Proverbs tells us, death and life are in the power of the tongue. So what does it mean that the very sound of salvation was so profoundly altered? Was it merely linguistic drift? Or was it a deliberate act to siphon the energy from a name meant to awaken your deepest self? But they didn't stop at letters and syllables. They carried out a subtle, devastating inversion. The mystic who wandered dusty roads, speaking of the kingdom within, inviting you to realize the divine birthright already nestled in your chest. He was transformed into a distant monarch, seated on a jeweled throne in some unreachable sky. The guide who gently called, "The kingdom of God is within you," became a sovereign to be worshipped from afar, forever separate from your daily struggles and silent triumphs. Can you sense the cunning power in that shift? Instead of stirring people to awaken to the Christ within, it beckoned them to bow to a Christ forever enthroned outside themselves. It redirected a wild inward journey into a tidy outward obedience. How many souls even today wander lost, never realizing they carry the same spark Yeshua tried to ignite in every beating heart he touched. They did far more than rename a man. They re-scripted reality itself, whispering a new narrative into the collective mind of humanity. And the weight of that deception still hangs heavy in the air around us. Would our world look different if we truly understood what was taken and what still waits quietly inside you to be reclaimed? Stay with this story. Its next turn may shake loose chains you didn't even know were binding you. Now, let us slip even deeper, beyond the history shaped by emperors and councils, into the living code itself. Because the name Yeshua is not merely a name, it is a masterpiece of sacred architecture constructed from 4 ancient Hebrew letters that pulse with hidden wisdom. They are more than characters inked on parchment. They are living doors into a mystery older than stone. The first letter is Yud, a tiny curve that almost vanishes on the page, yet it carries infinite weight. It is the divine spark, the seed of all creation, the very fingertip of God that carved the universe out of nothing. Can you imagine that something so small, cradling the power that spoke stars into existence, it is the same spark whispered into your soul, waiting quietly to catch flame. Next comes Shin, crowned with 3 flames dancing upward. It is the eternal fire of the Spirit, the holy blaze that consumes impurities and forges gold from the dross. Remember how God spoke to Moses from a bush that burned yet was not consumed. That was Shin in living form, the ever-burning presence that transforms by its very nature. Have you felt such a fire in your own heart, stirring you to rise from old ashes? Then flows Vav, a slender nail that reaches down from heaven to earth. It is the connector, the divine bridge that binds what is above to what lies below. Think of Jacob's ladder stretching into the skies, angels ascending and descending. Vav is that unseen highway by which your prayers rise and grace descends, anchoring the infinite into your finite life. Finally comes Ayin, the eye, but not the eye of flesh that merely scans the surface of things. This is the soul's eye, an inner sight that peers past shadows and illusions, perceiving truths too luminous for ordinary vision. Open my eyes that I may behold wondrous things out of your law, pleads Psalm 119:18. Isn't that the deepest yearning to see not just with sight, but with true perception? And when these letters stand together, they do far more than spell a name. They compose a divine formula, a living blueprint. They chart a sacred process. The divine spark ignites within you, is tested and purified by the fire of the Spirit, becomes anchored through the holy connection between heaven and your humble life, and finally opens your inner eye to behold realities far beyond the veil. Have you ever paused to wonder what might happen if you let this process truly unfold in you? If the spark flared, the fire refined the connection, strengthened, and your soul's eye finally awoke, how would you walk through this world? What would change in the way you see your struggles, your joys, even the faces of strangers passing by? This is the code they feared you might one day unlock. A mystery hidden in plain sight, waiting like a quiet heartbeat beneath every breath you take. And perhaps as you ponder these ancient letters, something long dormant within you begins to stir, eager to remember. The name Yeshua holds a secret so profound that few dare to truly sit with its weight. Unlike nearly every other name spoken under sun or stars, Yeshua carries within it a soft hidden resonance, an echo of the holiest name ever uttered, the 4-lettered, unutterable breath of God, YVH. This was no ordinary arrangement of sounds. It was a whisper of the ineffable, a living current that reached all the way back to the first words ever spoken into the void. "Let there be light." Among those ancient seekers, this was recognized instantly. They saw Yeshua as far more than a beautiful or pious name. It was a walking revelation, a living, breathing embodiment of the Logos, the divine word that, as John wrote, was with God, and was God through whom all things came into being. Can you sense how staggering it must have been to encounter someone whose very name vibrated with the creative force that forged galaxies? Say it slowly with me now. Yeshua. Let the syllables unfurl on your tongue like a scroll opening in a temple. Draw the sound into your chest and notice how your breath deepens, almost of its own accord. That soft tingling at the base of your spine, that gentle quickening of your pulse, could it be more than mere sound? Might it be the soul remembering what it once knew before it ever wore flesh? Because this is not simply pronunciation. It is remembrance. It is activation. Each breath that carries this name stirs something ancient within, like embers buried under cold ash that suddenly catch with a golden glow. What if people everywhere discovered this? What if, standing alone under moonlight or kneeling by a humble bedside, they realized they didn't need grand temples of marble or priests clad in jeweled robes to intercede for them? That the name itself, the breath of salvation, was already written upon their very lungs. Imagine the shiver that would run through the great institutions of power if multitudes awakened to the truth that the holiest sanctuary was their own beating chest. Would the world ever be the same? Or would the old walls come tumbling down, leaving only the pure, clear sky above, and souls finally free to walk with their God in the cool of the day, just as it was in Eden before fear built its first altar? Pause with this. Let it swirl quietly in the chambers of your heart, for this mystery still has more to reveal. And the next unfolding may reach into places inside you that you've long forgotten. But pause with me here and truly consider what happens when the living name begins to do what it was always meant to do, when it slips past the guarded gates of the mind and finds its way into the hidden chambers of the heart, when it stirs awake something ancient inside something the world has long tried to hush back to sleep. Empires begin to tremble. That's what happens. Because when the living name, heavy with the breath of YHVH, starts whispering in human souls, it ignites a revolution no throne can control. It moves in quiet places, around kitchen tables, in midnight prayers, beneath weeping trees. It calls people not to a flag or a creed, but to remember who they are beyond the dust of this world. And that is the one awakening power fears most. Is it any wonder, then, that in the days to come, when you reach chapter 4, you'll see precisely how they move to bury the rest of his teachings? The very ones that dared to unveil a staggering truth. The kingdom you've been taught to search for somewhere beyond the stars was never out there at all. It has always been a secret garden hidden within you, waiting for you to step through the gate. The kingdom of God is within you. Yeshua had said words that echoed like thunder to the priests and princes who heard them. And if something just now shivered through your spirit, if hearing his true name, Yeshua, felt less like learning a fact and more like remembering a dream you thought lost forever, then let this fragile holy moment become a vow. Not for algorithms or clever metrics, not for digital applause, but to press this revelation through the thick veils of forgetfulness that have long dimmed humanity's sight. Don't merely subscribe to a channel. Subscribe to the gentle earthquake beginning to move inside your own chest. Let it unsettle you in the best way. And if you dare declare it aloud for both heaven and earth to hear, Leave your mark below, type it with breathless reverence. Yeshua is rising in me. Because something mysterious happens when a truth is spoken publicly. It becomes anchored in this world. It becomes a seed. And perhaps, just perhaps, that simple act will be your way of telling every watching power that you remember and that you are finally ready. Ready for what comes next. Ready to awaken. Now we arrive at perhaps the most dangerous question of all. A question so unsettling that countless rulers and religious powers spent centuries weaving intricate walls to keep it from ever brushing against your heart. Why go to such unimaginable lengths? Why twist a name, rewrite teachings, and build towering systems of belief designed to steer you away from the simplest, most luminous truth? Because the name Yeshua could never be separated from the power of what he taught. And that teaching was pure, undiluted spiritual empowerment. It was a torch meant to ignite the very core of your being. In the fragile decades after his footsteps faded from the hills of Galilee, the early church fathers stood at a terrifying crossroads. They could not harness a wildfire that invited each person to find God dwelling within their own breast. So they erected an entirely new structure, one built on the Greek idea of pistis, which means faith. Faith, not as trust in a living relationship with the divine, but as an intellectual assent to external doctrines, as belief in saviors who stand forever apart from you. Pistis quietly whispers, accept what we tell you. Believe in the creeds we have sanctioned, and one distant day you will be saved. But what did Yeshua himself truly teach? It was the scandalous, exhilarating path of gnosis, direct, unmediated, soul-deep knowing. Gnosis sings, look within. Come to know your truest self, and you will realize you are already woven into salvation right here, right now. Is it any wonder that an empire would quake at such words? If people truly discovered that salvation was never meant to be a transaction completed long ago on a distant hill, but an ongoing inner transformation, a secret alchemy within their own hearts, then they would awaken to a stunning realization. If the kingdom is truly within you, what use have you for Rome? What need for a pope draped in embroidered robes? What requirement even for a distant savior? When you begin to glimpse that you yourself are the one your soul has been longing for, so they buried the most explosive of his teachings. They did not merely set them aside, they hunted them to the ends of the earth. They burned the writings of the Gnostics who dared to keep the torch alive, and they hid the master key to the kingdom right in the open, while pointing you to every place except inside your own chest. And yet, despite every pyre and sword, these instructions were not lost. Like precious seeds waiting for rain, they lay hidden in the sands of time until 1945, when an earthen jar was unearthed by farmers in the Egyptian desert near Nag Hammadi. Inside were texts that had lain undisturbed for almost 2,000 years, among them the astonishing Gospel of Thomas. Doesn't it send a shiver through you to think these words survived every empire's attempt to erase them, waiting patiently for a generation ready to hear? Let us step softly now into this sacred chamber of forgotten words. These are the teachings they tried to obliterate. Instead of commanding worship me, as countless altars have proclaimed in his name, Yeshua's voice emerges from the dust and says, split the wood, and I am there. Lift the stone, and you will find me. Imagine that no need for a jeweled temple, no need for a priest to unlock a door. The divine is infused in the grain of every tree, the weight of every rock, the breath fogging softly on your own mirror. His disciples once asked, Master, when will the kingdom come? They must have looked eagerly to the sky, expecting rolling thunder or angels bursting forth with trumpets. But he answered with the quiet power of eternity itself. It will not come by waiting for it. It will not be a matter of saying, "Here it is," or "There it is." Rather, the kingdom of the Father is spread out upon the earth, and people do not see it. Pause and let that linger in your bones. He was never a distant deity dangling salvation just out of reach. He was the living blueprint of the Christ within a radiant mirror, held up so you might finally glimpse your own divine face shining back. What might your life look like if you truly believed that? If instead of endlessly searching outside yourself, you dared to explore the cathedral already alive inside your chest? Would the world ever be able to keep you small again? There is still more of this mystery waiting just beyond the next breath. Let it draw you forward gently, but irresistibly, as you journey deeper into what was hidden so that you might finally awaken. Now we stand before the final gate, perhaps the most veiled of all the mysteries, the secret so powerful it caused the very foundations of organized religion to quake. This is the teaching that your physical body is not a mere vessel to endure or escape, but the actual laboratory for spiritual resurrection. Imagine that for a moment, your very flesh, blood, and bones are the sacred ground where the ultimate transformation unfolds. Could this be why so many voices through history rushed to call your body sinful or shameful, hoping you'd never discover what dwells quietly within it? Among his closest circle, those willing to journey beyond simple parables, Yeshua revealed that the kingdom of heaven was not only a realm of consciousness, but also a mechanism, a living seed of divinity planted deep inside. The Greek mystery schools who preserved fragments of these truths through veiled symbols and initiations called it Christos, the sacred anointing oil. They did not whisper of it as poetry or pretty allegory. It was mystery science, a spiritual technology encoded within the human frame. These ancient teachings spoke of a remarkable process hidden in plain sight within your anatomy. A precious, luminous fluid is secreted in a tiny secret chamber of the brain called the claustrum, whose very name means hidden away. Could it be a coincidence that the place designed to safeguard treasures is also the seat of this holy substance? This sacred secretion then journeys down the spinal cord like a pilgrim descending into the valleys of the soul. But here lies the crossroads upon which every seeker must stand. If you squander your life force, if passions run untamed and wildfires consume what was meant to ascend, the oil is lost to lower appetites. But if you guard this vital essence, if you master desire, cultivate purity of heart, and protect the sanctity of your inner temple, then something miraculous happens. This oil does not remain below. It begins to rise. Picture it climbing slowly back up the 33 vertebrae of your spine, a hidden ladder reminiscent of Jacob's dream. As it ascends, it is refined by the gentle, constant fires of the heart purged of its dross, until it becomes a luminous offering fit to crown the soul. Finally, it reaches the throne at the center of your head, where it anoints the optic thalamus and the mysterious pineal gland, that tiny crystal palace the ancients called the seat of the soul. And when it does, it bursts forth as illumination, flooding your entire being with a light not born of sun or flame. Could this be what scriptures hinted at all along? That the real second coming was never meant to be thunder in distant clouds, but the sacred rising of the Christ within you. That the truest anointing was not oil dabbed upon a forehead by another's hand, but a holy ascent of divine fire from your root to your crown, transforming you into a living temple of glory. The early church fathers, staring into this blinding truth, recognized a dire threat to the very structures they were building. For if people ever truly grasped that a Messiah was already sleeping inside their marrow, waiting to be awakened by their own inner alchemy, would they still bow in fear to hierarchies and creeds? Or would they stand radiant and sovereign, each soul a sanctuary blazing with divine light? So they buried this sacred science beneath dogma and ritual. They whispered only of external saviors, far-off heavens, and distant days of redemption, ensuring you would look everywhere except into the vast, shimmering cathedral within your own body. Yet, these truths were never fully lost. They continued to breathe in old texts, hidden symbols, and the quiet intuition that rises sometimes in your chest like a half-forgotten song. Perhaps even now, something deep within you stirs, as if remembering what your spirit once knew, long before it was taught to forget. There is more yet to uncover, more doors waiting just beyond this gate. Let your heart lean forward, eager for what these revelations might awaken next. Pause here with me. Truly pause. Let the whirlwind of thoughts slow for a heartbeat. Take a long, tender breath that drops all the way down into your belly. Yes, that's it. Feel how it moves, how it expands you from the inside. This has been a vast pilgrimage through the tangled corridors of history, across shifting languages, and into the most hidden sanctuaries of esoteric wisdom. It's only natural if your mind is racing, leaping to connect all the luminous threads. That is the mind's way, forever hungry for conclusions. But for just this moment, allow all those swirling theories to fall like autumn leaves. Because what is being asked of you now isn't more analysis or grasping. It's something far simpler, yet infinitely deeper. It is feeling, a gentle yielding of the heart. You've been handed a key now. Together, let us turn it in the lock and listen for the ancient door inside you to slowly swing open. Look back over the path we've traveled. You've seen how they dismantled the sacred name, how they scrubbed away its living vibration until it became a hollow echo, how they tried to keep the divine seed buried under centuries of stone. But the time for observing is done. Now comes the moment to step across the threshold, not with your intellect, but with your very soul. Understand this. The name Yeshua was never meant to bind you into worship of a distant figure draped in celestial robes. It was always a set of sacred instructions, a living pattern for becoming what he became, a revelation waiting to unfold within you. So these next 2 minutes are not meant for idle watching. They are meant to be lived, felt, and experienced. Let this be a sacred act, more real than the chair you sit upon. I invite you now, gently and with great reverence, to find a quiet space. Perhaps dim the lights, or sit near a window where a soft breeze can touch your skin. Set your feet flat upon the ground, feeling the patient strength of the earth beneath you. Close your eyes. Draw a slow breath deep into your belly, letting it swell under your hand. As you exhale, allow the tensions of the day to pour out every worry, every rigid certainty. Release all you think you know. Now tenderly place one hand over your heart. Let your other hand come to rest upon your belly, the cradle of your deepest life force. And here, in this hushed temple of your own body, whisper the living name, not to some throne in the clouds, but directly to the spark of God dwelling quietly inside you. Let the sound rise, not from your throat, but from the softest chambers of your soul. Say it 3 times, and with each breath, let the recognition blossom a little more. Yeshua, Feel the tiny divine spark, ignite in your heart, a subtle flicker that knows exactly how to burn. Yeshua. Feel the Vav, the sacred connection unfurling up your spine like a tender vine of light linking earth to heaven within your very bones. Yeshua. Feel the gentle pulse at the center of your forehead, your inner eye opening as if remembering an old dream. Let it dawn on you, this is not learning. This is remembrance. Can you sense it? The tomb was empty not merely as a miracle to be marveled at from afar, but because he fulfilled the code, demonstrating the path of resurrection already etched into your own design. And now, that same code stirs awake in you. You are not standing here, waiting for some future second coming written in the clouds of prophecy. You are the second coming. The Holy is not hovering in some unreachable realm beyond the stars. It is humming quietly inside your chest, rising now, alive and radiant. It is risen, and it is you. As we come to the end of this journey, one thing becomes clear: the name we have been given. Jesus may not simply be a name, but a key to unlocking a deeper connection with the divine. The change in his name was not just a historical event. It was an intentional act to veil something powerful, something that would awaken us to a higher truth. And now, as we rediscover his true name, we unlock more than just understanding. We unlock a deeper connection with the purpose and power he has for us today. In the world we live in now, where distractions abound and the essence of faith is often diluted, it's easy to forget that the path to divine awakening isn't just about the words we speak, but the vibrational truth they carry. The truth of Yeshua is not just for the past, it's for today. It's a call to reconnect, to live out the divine purpose that each of us was born for. If this message has resonated with you, I encourage you to take a step further in your journey. Join our community, engage with the content, and reflect on how this truth can transform your life. Leave a comment and share your thoughts, because your voice matters in this awakening. Subscribe to the channel for more insights, and together, let's continue to explore the deeper mysteries that can guide us to a life of true purpose. The name has been changed, but the truth remains waiting for you to unlock it.